best thing about Malta is sun.
Summer, I guess. You're visiting the beaches.
But I don't really like the sun much.
Small country, easy to get out of when you want to. How many churches are there in Malta?
I believe there are 365.
It's apparently one for every day of the year.
What's the worst thing about Malta?
Oh, driving here is a bit of a problem.
It's like being on the dodgem cars, you know. I
guess the most surprising thing about Malta, if somebody has never visited Malta, is probably
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you very much and welcome to Mark Steele's in Town, which this week comes from Malta. One of the world's immense superpowers. Where you can enjoy areas such as the one we're in here in St Julian's and Sliema with their unspoilt scenery. Lovely old medieval buildings such as Hugo's Sports Bar. And everyone in the government is honest. And the skyline is so appealing, thousands of people float here in dinghies just to get a look at it. The glory of Malta is because of where you are. You've absorbed a wonderful mix of cultures. Language from North Africa, architecture from Greece, and corruption from Sicily. You are one of the tiniest countries in Europe, which could give you a complex, but luckily you've got the island of Gozo to look down on. So you're fine. And we're just across the bay from the capital, Valletta, which really is one of the most colourful towns in the world. It's been calculated that across the town you can see over 35 different shades of light brown. Now, most British people don't know much about Malta. We don't know anything about abroad. We are all taught, though, the most important fact, which is that it used to be ours. And most British people think that you're Italian, and understandably you get cross and you go, why, they say we Italian, half of us support Italy at football. You can't get anything done without bribing someone. It's just stupid. We are nothing like Italy. Half the country seems to love Italian things, half the country seems to love British things. So, for example, I mean, who here supports a British football team? And who here supports an Italian football team? And how many people support Malta? And it's touching it how many men here have English first names and then double-barrelled proper Maltese surnames. So you come across someone who tells you that their name is Clive Zwereb de Frenicat Bujerabella. I can see why you want to preserve old Malta, because Valletta is a beautiful town of old, dusty, sandstone buildings, so much so that every time you go out, you look down and realise you're covered in brown dust. In 50 years, most of Valletta will be dispersed around the world on people's jumpers. At the moment, the building regulations state building colours should be limited to natural earth or pastel tones. There are so many new buildings on this side of the bay. The Loving Malta website had a headline that said, overdevelopment in Sliema is so bad the Heritage Society has literally given up. I should think it has. What a pointless organisation that is. You could have the Taj Mahal here and someone would go, we could balance a nightclub on top of that dome. But you really do matter here in the middle of the Mediterranean. Your geographical position gave you a hugely important role for hundreds of years, providing somewhere for other people to invade. All the tourist guides start by telling you who ruled here at some point: Phoenicians, Greeks, Normans, Romans, French, English. It's like everybody went, we were on our way to Crete, we decided to nip in and invade Malta on the way. But you're in the perfect place for holidays, and so much of the island is about tourism, which must be why every tourist website boasts this is the most densely populated country in Europe, which is why it makes perfect sense to base the entire economy around attracting millions more people. Valletta is truly beautiful. You don't need bright colour. There's nothing more peaceful and idyllic than to sit in Upper Baracca Gardens, wistfully letting your mind wander until a £45 cannon explodes in your ear. For some ceremonial reason. Or you can while away idle moments at a cafe in Independence Square, accompanied only by the tranquil hum of a 30-piece brass band that creeps up behind you with no warning. And most countries don't have this, just all the time. This is true. I was outside a bank and suddenly this happened, which I recorded at a bank. And I love that they were all in tune, but all of them playing a different song. I think it's a brilliant place to come as a tourist, but if I can offer just one criticism, I think you could do with a couple more churches. The churches clearly work because all this worshipping means that God looks after you, which is why there are times in history you've gone a whole year without being invaded. There are churches everywhere. Christianity is literally all around you. Crosses, Our Ladies. I bet there's a mural of the Ascension on the ceiling of Dorothy Perkins. Do you know how many churches there are in Malta? 365. So it's said one for every day of the year. To be fair, most people here do go to church, so that's probably because it's the only place where you can get a bit of space. I suppose you reckon as long as you keep your murals of St Francis of Assisi looking nice, God will reward you one day, maybe by giving you a bus that turns up on time. Because your transport, Malta, is the most environmentally friendly in the world. You get in a car, sit inside for an hour in a line of other cars without moving, give up and don't bother going. I love the driving technique where someone's on a narrow street, so they decide to just stop the car, get out and wander off, just leaving a big trail of cars. They just stop all of a sudden. Maybe they've just realised the futility of owning a car in a country that's 50 yards long. That has streets thinner than the width of a car. This is the standard of driving here. Someone honestly told me that their dad went for the driving test and the instructor said, get in, if you drive to the top of the street and back, you've passed. And the instructor didn't even get in himself. So the most entertaining way to travel in Malta, especially Valletta, is by bus. I saw an interview with a bus driver who said, the modern bus is no good. A heat gets trapped inside. My bus was built 1938. It's much better. It's the only one I drive. And I love that you keep the 1938 bus going. I mean, the reason it's lasted so long is it hasn't turned up for its first journey yet. And your buses have a registration plate that starts bus. Which is so people know what one looks like if they haven't seen one outside a museum. But most spectacular of all, Malta, is you then bought a fleet of buses from Britain. The bendy ones that we scrapped because they caught fire and didn't fit in the narrow streets of London. So it made sense to send them somewhere where the streets are 5 times smaller and 10 times as hot. Did anyone get on the bendy bus? It can't have gone anywhere, can it? They were so impossible to get down the streets, the bus drivers went on strike, as if that would make any difference. And then, so the bus company flew in bus drivers from Britain. So how did that work? Floriana, please. Don't know where that is, mate. I'll take it to Bethnal Green. One man got so cross that he went on hunger strike against the bendy buses, and this was only resolved when the Prime Minister visited him and persuaded him to eat 2 kiwi fruits. Now, do you know what? Sometimes I wonder why it is that Malta isn't taken more seriously on the global political stage. How do we get Kim Jong-un to give up his weapons? Or we could give him kiwi fruit. One issue we should clear up here for anyone who wants to drive in Malta is whereas most of Europe drives on the right, you drive on whichever side of the road doesn't have a 9-foot pothole. But, to be fair, you're very generous in giving tips to visitors about which side of the road to drive on, which is we don't drive on the left, we don't drive on the right, we drive in... In the shade. That's the rule here. That's brilliant. We drive in the shade. Do the police check? Excuse me, sir. We have reason to believe you've not been driving in the shade. Would you like to breathe into this thermometer? I love the way that you are so determined to do things a unique Maltese way here. Someone even said, we're not going to drink Coke or lemonade like the rest of the world. We're going to invent a mad drink called Kinney. This drink seems to define you, Malta. It must be the only place in the world where a product can advertise itself as a Maltese bittersweet thirst quencher brewed from bitter oranges and extract of wormwood. And be a huge success. And what a marvellous touch that your national drink is a fetching shade of light brown. And you're in the middle of the Mediterranean, so your main dish is pasticci. Pasticci are cheese or mushy pea pies. A marvellous invention, like someone's gone, how can we make mushy peas more working class? I know, we'll stick them in a pie. I reckon instead of serving them on a plate, you should wrap them up in a betting slip. So who prefers the pea ones? And who's cheese? Oh, now that surprised me, because most people I've spoken to prefer the pea. I'm definitely pea. But this has become an even more complex socio-cultural quandary, because recently someone has started making Nutella pasticci. No! Is this because you're overcrowded and you need to kill people off? But I'm sure you're aware, for most people in the world, the most that they know about Malta is from someone they know who came here on a holiday. And you can't always trust people when they come back from holiday and talk about something. I've seen 2 American documentaries that talk about Malta. And this is... I know the British are thick. This is an American documentary about Malta. Listen to this. See if you can spot the mistake.
This is Travel Tuesdays. Today we're looking at 15 things you didn't know about Malta. The capital, Valletta, was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1980. Valletta is the smallest capital in the European Union, with an area of 0.8 square meters.
That makes you smaller than a coffee table. But the Malta Tourist Board does know how to sell Valletta. It gives 2 main reasons for coming, which are Valletta was recently voted the sunniest capital in Europe and has the world's most scenic airport approach. So there you go. What more do you want? And you love to publicise your weird ceremonies. You've got a Guardia parade in which everyone wears brightly coloured Arabic silky gowns that are probably against planning regulations. And there are sword fights, and then there's the Santa Maria Festival, a serious and sombre affair to celebrate a saint who, according to the guidebook, led an austere life of good deeds. And the guide goes on to explain how you commemorate this austere life in the festival. There's food, drink and festive marches with endless fun. We go ballistic. Our Lady's entry into heaven is commemorated so grandly here on earth she might feel let down with what happens in the heavens. Is Yaz here? Oh, hello, Yaz. So does everybody go out to the festivals then? It's just brilliant.
Yeah, of course, especially if it's your town. Oh, it's fantastic because, like, we pretend that it's there, for religious reasons. We parade a statue around everywhere, like in the streets. Boom, fireworks. You eat a lot. You buy glittery things. And then after we pray and go visit the church and see how lovely everything is, we get drunk with our family, start a bar fight, talk about politics. Fun. For Jesus.
Of course, festivals happen here because this is a deeply religious country, as we know, which is why the street you're proudest of in Valletta's history is an alley where sailors used to go to be entertained. Officially called Straight Street, but everyone knows it as the Gut. And the tourist website informs us drunkenness, rowdiness, prostitution, even cross-dressing were the nightly routine. But you need that sort of release when you're in a small country vulnerable to attack. Which man wouldn't think we might be attacked by Italy soon, so I might as well put on a bra. But Straight Street is still one of your most important cultural centres because EasyJet's in-flight magazine, Traveller, named Valletta's Straight Street public toilet the best public toilet in Europe. And it went on. It's not just a toilet, it's a theatrical experience. I mean, I love the fact that it's got that particular award, but I went to the toilet, I'll be honest, I was disappointed. There was a very nice man at the door, and you give him 70 cents, and I went in, even though I didn't need to go, I really wanted to look at the toilet, and there wasn't even a seat on it. And then I came back out, and I said, "Is that it?" And he said, "Everyone says that." But I love that, Malta, that you take objects and you do something that no one else would do. A cannon will set it off in the high street. A toilet will pretend it's a theatre. A flock of birds, shall we watch them and appreciate them? No. Let's get a surface-to-air missile and destroy the lot of them. Because this is a big issue here, that certain people in the country love killing any migrating bird that has the cheek to fly over the country. Now, I can see their point. When you've got the history you have, you're not going to allow anything to invade your airspace. Protesters come from across Europe on this issue to campaign against shooting, and they say it's unfair as the birds don't stand a chance, but it's not quite true. I mean, this is Malta. If a quail can bung £5,000 to a government official, they'll get a little quail passport. You wade through. So there was a referendum on whether to make certain hunting of birds illegal. And at this point, I'd like to talk to Alice. We've got Alice. How did you manage to lose that vote? It seems to be a fairly rational thing to say you shouldn't just go around shooting stuff.
That's a good question.
There was a phrase, there's a little poetic phrase that you were telling me that some of the shooters use.
Yeah, I've seen if it flies, it dies.
I mean, what is? I just don't understand the thing of just shooting.
It's deeply ingrained in the culture.
They don't believe that they're going to make them extinct at all just by killing them all.
No. I've heard a few things. For example, some hunters believe that the birds actually change their migration route, so the birds are actually missing Malta altogether.
They probably should miss Malta altogether. If one of them escapes and goes back, that's probably why they have to shoot all of them, because one goes back, they go, "Don't go over there, it's mad." Also, apart from just shooting birds, you were telling me that some of the gun people, they enjoy a hobby called finch trapping.
Yeah, that's right.
This is something that you showed me. This is from finchtrappers.org. I promise this is what someone wrote. Without finch trapping, the trapper has nothing to look forward to in life. He would have nothing to dream about, hope for, dress up for. He would not be able to socialise, his mental and physical health would suffer, and he would fail to perform in work and in sex. Thank you very much, Alice. The letter offers a series of clues, I think, as to what's happened around the Mediterranean over the last 500 years. To start with, Valletta was created in the 1500s by the Knights Hospitaller who were thrown out of Rhodes by the Ottomans, and they were offered Malta by the King of Sicily in exchange for an annual fee, I'm sure a lot of you know this, of a single Maltese falcon. Even this caused tension early on because every year you'd say to the King of Sicily, "Sorry, Your Majesty, we've shot it again." We couldn't help it. The trouble was we were failing in work and sex. The The British took over here in 1800 in alliance with the Vatican and chucked the French out, who'd invaded under Napoleon a couple of years earlier, and Napoleon had taken power from the church. So Nelson was highly complimentary about you, Malta, saying Malta is a useless and enormous expense. And I thought, oh, that's a bit much, isn't it? That Britain saw you as like an old car that keeps failing its MOT. Or as you call it here, a car. But eventually the British changed their mind about you being useless in 1940 because you again made the mistake of being in the middle of the sea, right at the point where all the fighting happened in a war. Malta became known as the most bombed place on earth. Now, to start with, war was declared on Malta by Italy under Mussolini, who claimed that the bombing had destroyed Malta's railway system, which was impressive because it had been shut down in 1931. 10 years before the bombing started. It's a shame it wasn't true in a way, because then you could have said, say what you will about Mussolini, at least he stopped the trains running on time. Now, one problem you had in doing battle with the Luftwaffe was you hardly had any planes or pilots to start with. And not only that, but Maltese fighter planes were easily spotted by the Germans because they had bomber plane as their registration. Every day, dozens of German planes came over here, bombing everything they could, and even reading about it is relentless. Though not all the German planes were on bombing missions. Some of them just wanted to see the beautiful scenic approach to the airport. In 1956, there was a referendum in which a majority of people who voted wanted Malta to become a part of Britain. And in the end, we persuaded you that you couldn't be British because you go to church and speak more than one language. This is a very Christian country, and that's why the government here reflects those Christian values, you know. Such as insisting that migrants clinging to a raft can't be allowed in, but if you're a foreign businessman with $1 million, you can. It's just got Jesus written all over it. I was considering whether to do a chunk of the show about alleged corruption. It was a difficult choice, I'll be honest, because the advantage of not doing it would be that we skirt round a divisive subject. The advantage of doing it would be that one day there'll be a beautiful shrine to me somewhere. Because in 2013, the government here started selling passports for €650,000 each to wealthy foreign businessmen who needed an EU passport. The plan was to make €300 million. And I just wondered, were there adverts going, everyone's rushing to the super summer sale at Valletta Town Hall. Passports for Russian oligarchs, only €649,999. We've got passport crazy at the embassy. Hurry, 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 hurry. The person who's bought the passport is supposed to live here for a while, but according to one campaigner, they rent garages to make it look as if they have an address here. I found a garage where 4 Russian billionaires are supposed to be living. Although, to be fair, in Valletta, 4 people in one garage is quite a spacious apartment. Also, you're a big part of the film industry here. Some of Game of Thrones was filmed here. Assassin's Creed, Captain Phillips, The Da Vinci Code. At one point, I thought The Godfather was filmed here. Then I realised I was watching the evening news. And there's another tourist attraction that you see mentioned on any advert for Malta, which is a pub called The Pub. Where Oliver Reed got so drunk that he conked out altogether. And according to Air Malta magazine, on his last night, Oliver Reed downed over 8 pints of lager, 12 double rums, half a bottle of whiskey, and won an arm wrestling contest against the British Navy crew. It's assumed that he did this because he was a debauched reveller, but it sounds like the sort of thing you all do anyway and then call it the Festival of St Bartholomew. So, we are privileged to have with us Jim, who runs the pub called The Pub. And I was in there yesterday watching the football, and we got talking. I said, lovely to have you with us here, Jim.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
And so the Oliver, so that you've got T-shirts. The people come in and buy these, and it's a shrine now to Oliver Reed.
They do, yeah. We're trying to do it's in a sense we're trying to honour where he died. We're trying not to make people sort of say we make money out of his death, but we celebrate his life that unfortunately ended there. I know.
Well, it's very much unfortunate. Seeing as he was probably making 20 grand a night profit for the pub, it's a disaster.
But it's a lot of the celebration of him, and it's that kind of pull for the British.
Having said that, Jim, you told me about this. This, I think, really...
It was quite a special one last weekend, yeah. So there was a bit of a birthday party with a group half-drunk bloke. So where exactly did Oliver Cromwell die? And right behind him is a picture of Oliver Reed.
Oh, well, if the Puritans were known for one thing... It was drinking 8 pints of beer and a bottle of vodka and then arm wrestling a British Navy crew. Thank you very much, Jim. And
Thanks so much.
Recommend it, I'm sure you all know it. Also, is anyone here from Gozo? One person. There's one church there in a village called Shokia. Shokia. There's one village... Shokia, which is spelled Xewkija, which isn't a name for a village, it's a high security password on Amazon. But the most encouraging part of Malta is it is brilliantly Maltese. You've got bits of Italy and Britain and North Africa and now bits of Russia. I love it. I do. I love it in Malta. You're not... Do you know what I love? You're not Italian or British. You're Maltese. And you are us. Eh?
Yeah, unique.
You're unique. What did I say? Am I even getting the British words wrong? I said you're not Italian or British. We're unique. Yes, you're quite right. You're absolutely right. Thank you. You're not Italian or British. You are uniquely Maltese. And you are a superpower. You were crucial in the war against Hitler. You're the centre of international money laundering. You're so unruffled by anything that if something's a problem, you just stop and walk away. So it sort of concludes our little odyssey over here. Thank you very, very much, all you lovely people of Malta. So I will leave you, Malta, with the latest advert from your tourist board, which I thought was moving and poignant, and this time captures the essence of the widespread attractions of this majestic, idyllic, lovely island. Come to Malta. It's not just beaches we have to offer. We've got passports, driving licence, licence to open a bank, permission to park for 10 minutes without finding your tyre left. Come to Malta. We'll see what we can do.
Mark Steele's In Town was written and performed by Mark Steele.
With additional material by Pete Sinclair.
It was produced in Malta by Carl Cooper.
It was a BBC Studios production.